It's definitely been a while, you guys. Purposefully, it's been a while, actually. But I must reconvene with you guys to address this topic here. How are you guys and girls doing, by the way, before I dig into this? How are y'all doing? So apparently, from a video that I posted on March 11th this year, just a couple of months ago, my page has seen a dramatic increase in followers. I mean, the video has gone viral. It probably has nearly 1 million views by now. Last time I checked, it was like 900,000 views, right? So it's funny how videos go viral, though, because I didn't expect that particular video to go viral. I mean, granted, it's a video that I resonated with. That's the reason why I posted it. I'm going to jump into why I resonate with it. For you guys who are avid followers of this page, you guys already know why I resonate with that video. The video with the guy in the kitchen. Right? So my channel actually, or my Facebook page rather, it grew. Like, I mean, in a matter of a few months since March, we're in May. We're talking about, what, 2 months, you guys. I've gained over 5,000 followers and counting. So that's happened to me before, though. Like, it happens periodically where there's a post that goes viral. People go crazy over the post, right? And they share it. It's gotten like thousands and thousands of shares, thousands of comments, right? Over 41,000 likes and interactions. And people are really going crazy over that video. And the video, mind you, the clip is less than 20 seconds, I would say. It's probably like a 10-second, 8-second clip. So imagine this. Like, how can like a 8-10-second clip gain so much attention, right? And everybody is raving about it. I love this. They made it right too this time. This is carrot juice with ginger and orange juice. Oh, welcome, new followers, by the way, for you guys who are tuning in. Welcome. So I think what really inspired me to do this video is looking at the reaction to that video that I posted. So just to give you guys a little snippet, or it's really a snippet in and of itself, right? But basically in the video, the woman, it was a woman and a man. The woman, she's not seen on camera, right? The man is on camera. He's in the kitchen. Imagine that. He's in the kitchen, right? So much to unpack with this video. So she goes, I'm just going to go home. And he's like, no, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You're going to sit your ass down. I'm going to finish cooking. You're going to get some of this dick. And we're going to lay down and watch a movie. Straight to the point, right? Very directive. No doubts about it. No second guessing himself. Like, he asserts what's going to happen. Now, of course, I'm like, oh my, when I saw the video, I'm like, damn. Now, the guy in the video, he's a content creator. Of course, this is all content. That's what I think what's going over a lot of you guys' head, because a lot of people, they see videos on social media and they apparently assume that everything that's posted is actual real life. Now, of course, real life inspires art. All of this is artistic creation, right? Artistic expression. But people sometimes forget that, yes, we are content creators, right? We make content for the interaction, for the discussion, right? For people to be ranting and raving about things. But some people, like, there was like a division, right? There was a dichotomy of views, a perspective in response to this video. For the most part, I would say that people kind of align with my reaction to the video. Like, it's mostly women. who obviously were impacted by the video. And most women were like, "Ooh, yes, daddy. Okay, I'll sit down." Like, maybe I'll get back on here and read some of the comments, but the comments are hilarious, right? But then you have another perspective of women who feel a kind of way about it, right? They're like, wait, that's not how a man's supposed to talk to a woman. Granted, right? But look at the context. Look at the context, right, in this situation, in this story, in this little snippet, right? This is a skit, first of all. Let's reiterate that. This is a skit, clearly. And if it was based on a real life relationship, right, between a man and a woman, that's their relationship. Secondly, all right? And I think this is what people fail to realize, is that people have established a set of rules, expectations, standards in their relationship. Now, of course, me identifying myself as a submissive baby girl, I completely get it. And oftentimes, even my identification with the lifestyle is often misperceived, misunderstood. I run into many problems, I think, in the dating scene because men just don't get it, right? This is a very niche fetish. This is a very niche lifestyle, right? Not the majority of people identify themselves in the context of BDSM. I mean, granted, most people who are in vanilla relationships, which is your typical regular relationship, they do practice certain BDSM activities, right? Or BDSM related activities and fetishes. But for the most part, most people aren't living that lifestyle, right? Like, it's not their frame of reference. It's not, the realm in which they function necessarily. So they're not going to get it, right? Now, I can say this, like, speaking from personal experience and me dating, right, and coming across mostly vanilla men, not even vanilla, but beta men, like, I feel like there has been a shift in the dynamic between men and women and how men show up in relationships over the years, over the past several decades. There has been a shift, and that shift has heavily been influenced by these movements, these social movements, such as the Me Too movement, right? The women's rights movement, where women are advocating for equal rights, right? Equal opportunities. And not only that, men are being targeted specifically, right? Men's behavior in their interactions with women, how they interact with women, is being called into question, right? Is being put on the stand, is being called within judgment. And so men are, as a result, I think, have become more self-conscious of their identity, of their sexual identity, their sexual expression, how they relate to women. So much to the point where I think it is detrimental, right? It's causing a wedge, it's driving a wedge between the natural, organic relationships, how they should unfold between men and women. Right? And here's where I'm impacted, because I'm the traditional woman. Despite how it may come off, right, and on camera, right, or on my social media page in respect with my brand, or even in my professional realm in which I work as a clinical psychologist, despite that, like, I am naturally a submissive woman. So I run into problems with men because men, inadvertently, they have been impacted by this shift, right? This societal shift in the fabric in which men and women relate to each other and how they communicate with each other, how they're expected to, right? These social mores that have been planted in our minds, right, within the context of this society that we live in. Men are punished for being alpha men, unfortunately. Men are punished for assuming the dominant role, for being essentially head of household, right? Like, it's the ironic part about it is, like, years prior, right, decades prior, this is what's was expected of a man. And if he fell short of that, he wasn't a man, right? He was ridiculed. Now, fast forward several decades, we're in 2023, and the opposite is quite true, right? Like, it's like, what? And being a woman such as myself, I am 39 years old. I'm not ashamed to admit my age, but it's like, we've seen the shift, right? When you are of a certain age, like you have existed throughout these decades where you are able to see the shift happen from decade to decade, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh. It is so frustrating for me, right? So going back to that clip for women who have commented and they had this visceral reaction, they feel a certain kind of way in response to what's happening in the video. And they're like, oh no, not only are they attacking the video, but they're attacking people who thumbs up the video, people who support the video, people who are like, oh my gosh, yes, daddy, that's my kind of man. Like, they're attacking a perspective, a frame of reference, right? Like, this is our own opinion. But they are attacking that to say, oh, you women like you clearly have daddy issues. So I wanted to address that here briefly in this video, right? And I've definitely talked about this before. This is not new. Anybody who really follows my YouTube channel, follows my Facebook page on social media, like, I've addressed these issues. This is what I do, right? A big chunk of my content on YouTube is targeted towards addressing alternative sexual lifestyles, such as BDSM or cuckolding, for example, or swinging, you know, and addressing topics that relate and resonate to my viewers, not only to myself, but to my viewers, people who watch my channel, who gravitate to this, who can relate and identify, right? I've talked about this numerous times, and I've definitely made videos to clarify my affinity towards BDSM because I'm so misunderstood. And no, women who want a dominant man, no, it's not that we have daddy issues. Now, granted, speaking to that point, because I think sometimes people make blanket statements, right, as a catch-all, and we should know, if you're a critical thinker, right, you're thinking logically and analytically about anything, then you know that not everyone falls in a certain catch group, right? Not everything, not every statement can apply to every single person. However, you know, to be more specific and more articulate and being able to break down anything that you're looking at, right? I think it behooves us to be very specific, to be very conscientious of the words that we use and how we express ourselves. So yes, while there are some women who do, and not just women, men too, who have, you know, quote unquote daddy issues, who grew up without a father, or if their father was physically present, the father may have not been psychologically and emotionally present to the extent that the child needed that father to be. So what happens in that particular situation is that oftentimes that child grows up to be an adult who has a void, right? Who carries this void of wanting to be nurtured, right? Chasing after that nurturing, that compassion that that child did not get when they were younger. Funny enough, like, I always go back to my graduate studies, being a PhD student out in Los Angeles, California, and that's not too far long ago, where I actually would get into debates with my professor. It was in my psychoanalytic class, right, where we learn the different psychoanalytic approaches to psychology and treating patients, psychodynamic. It's kind of like the overarching umbrella of that. I would get into these back and forth with my professor, even in class, and sometimes he was like, okay, let's discuss this more after class, because I have a perspective. I'm very, like, clearly, I'm outspoken, you know, and I'm not one of those kind of students. Yes, I listen very keenly and intently, right? But at the same time, I'm analyzing things constantly, and I express myself. And if I see or have a difference of opinion, I'm going to let it be known, right? And so in the context of, in this class, right, we were talking about how, just what I just mentioned, right? How, within people, if there is a void, right, given that certain needs, certain developmental needs are not being met at that point which they should be met, right, it kind of creates this void, and that void lives, right? Unfortunately, it festers in a person throughout their development, throughout their life, until obviously it's addressed, right, and it's treated. But even in receiving treatment, right, there's no fix necessarily to avoid, right? It's like the love that a child was supposed to get, an adult child, right, was supposed to get when they were young, whether it was the love of the mother, right, or the love of their father, they will never get that as an adult. It's not going to happen. Why? Because they were supposed to get it at a certain developmental stage in their life. And the reason why they will never get it, because they will never be able to go back to that developmental stage, right? So yes, to some of you guys' points, or girls' points, right, on that post, who was saying that, oh, you girls have daddy issues, for you women have daddy issues for saying that, or thinking that this is cute, or liking, this type of content, right, relating to the particular video that I was discussing. I'm like, okay, that may hold some merit, but you can't assume that falls and applies for everyone, right? Not everyone falls underneath that, and that does not apply to every single person. For other people, it is simply a fetish, right? Like, they have an attraction to this type of dynamic. It really is a power exchange, and I think that it's important for people to educate themselves on that. Hence the reason why I make videos about BDSM all the time, right? Now, I said, obviously, I have kind of taken a break from creating content on social media, but I pop in here and there, and I'm back, obviously, today. But yes, people really, it would, I think, benefit people to educate themselves. And obviously, there are some people on that post who are educated, who are well informed, to know that, it could be either or, right? It could be abusive characteristics. It can be an inclination for a woman who is in this situation and doesn't know her self-worth, right? And so is taking on this abuse from a man. But meanwhile, I didn't look at it that way, because I obviously identify myself as a submissive baby girl, and I am a masochist. So I do like this power exchange in terms of relating to a man that I'm seriously involved with. That's what turns me on. I get turned on by that, right? I like disciplined beatings, And I talk about kind of the etiology of my affinity towards certain fetishes, right, or characteristics of my asexual expression. I've talked about that many times, but I definitely want to be clear. Like, we should definitely break things down to further get an accurate understanding of certain things, but without making assumptions and without jumping the gun and casting judgment on the people, first of all, that you don't even know. Like, that's what I find hilarious. But I absolutely love that video, because it's, I think, very rare that you see that kind of dynamic portrayed on social media, right? Or even in the media, period, in movies. Like, you just don't see it now. Like, there obviously is an agenda, there's a narrative that kind of effeminize, right? And emasculate men. So, of course, I stand with the team. I stand with the side of people who are very conscious of this and are deliberately going out to make content that promotes that the healthy hierarchy, right? Bringing it back to the proper balance of things, right? Where yes, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, you know? And yeah, people, I get it. People feel a certain kind of way about it. And you guys watching this, feel free to share your comments, share your thoughts below. I wouldn't say there is a right or wrong way. I would obviously emphasize, as I've emphasized before and throughout this video, is that we need to just be more careful and conscientious things, so that we could be able to make a better assumption of something, right? Before you go out and just carelessly, judge a person and castigate a person for how they identify or things that they're involved with. Like, inform yourself, educate yourself. That's what I'm all about. There is a fine line, though, I must say, between fetish and abuse. And that's why in these circles of people who practice alternative sexual lifestyles, especially when it kind of tapers along the lines of sadomasochism, we're talking about where people are actually putting hands on another person, right? And we're not talking about hands well, I guess it could be nurturing, right? It depends on how you interpret what nurture means to you. But it's definitely hands that are a little bit more rough, right? A little bit more harsh, a little bit more firm, a little bit more disciplinary in action, right? When you are involved in those types of behaviors in a relationship, right, it kind of goes without saying that there should be precautionary measures taken to ensure safety. So that's something I've talked about in previous videos about, how to implement safety. I talk about safety tips, cuckold safety tips, right? BDSM safety tips, right? So go and search on my channel on YouTube. It's the same name, Danny's World, on YouTube as it is on Facebook, and you guys will see where I'm aware of this, right? Like, I've lived the lifestyle, continue to live the lifestyle. I think it's a little bit more difficult, as I've suggested before, to actually practice this and be in a relationship where I feel like my needs are being met, predicated upon me first and foremost being understood by my partner. People just don't get it. So it's like either you get it or you don't. And that's just how that works. But yes, like in terms of safety, it's like there is a fine line between abuse. And I'm going to slow it down a little bit because I know I kind of been rapid fire with this, right? I have some things to get on my chest. But definitely I want to slow things a little bit down so I can be clear. So there's a fine line between safety and abuse, in that it is a dance. When consenting adults, right, are involved in these types of dynamics, where there is a power exchange, right, in terms of one person assumes and really is given more power in that relationship than the other person. And it is an exchange, because it's not like the power is taken, though it is, but it's only taken because it's given. A person can only take something that's given to them, right? In terms of a consensual relationship between two consenting adults. This is where some people get confused, right? They need to be re-educated upon this, because it's like, let's take, for example, usually the submissive is a woman, right? It's identified as the feminine energy, and the dom, or the master, is the man, the masculine energy. You ask the question, I can ask you guys the question, right? Who holds the power? Who holds the power in that dynamic? Who do you think? Who do you think holds the power? Drop your answer below. Who holds the power? will say, it may or may not surprise you, but when it comes to a submissive and a dom, who holds the power is not the dom necessarily. Who really holds the power is the submissive. The submissive holds the power. The power that the dom receives, right, assumes, or takes comes from the submissive. A person is only as powerful when we're talking about relationships, right, where people are involved. You're not by yourself. You're relating to another person, right? And we're talking about power over someone else. A person can only have as much power as that which is given to them. The moment a submissive asserts herself and says, you know what? Absolutely no, right? Or she uses her safe word, so to speak, right? That line is drawn. Understand that she is involved in this relationship because she is receiving something. She is gaining something from it. This is what she wants. This is what she wants. This is not what she is being told to do because it's only what he wants. This is what she wants, and she's benefiting from it. In fact, she's being very pleased. She's getting much pleasure from this dynamic. We can go and talk about why it's pleasure for her, right? And why not it's pleasure for other women. But the focus here should be on the fact that she's benefiting from this. She's getting pleasure from this. This is what she wants. She is consenting to this. She's an adult woman. She is very capable of making an informed decision on what she wants. So to take that from a woman, right, is like you're violating her rights. There are many people, especially in major cities such as New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, who are advocating, who are lobbying for laws to pass, to back these types of dynamics, these relationships, these consensual relationships, right? Amongst consenting adults that the general public may initially be repulsed at. Like, what? Like, you guys, in response to the comments, right? Like, looking at the comments on that video, in response to that video, go look at some of those comments, but people are just thrown aback. Like, oh my gosh, how could this be? And then even going to take it a step further to say, how could I even post something like this? Like, why is this even on social media? As if like, oh, you're advocating, you're promoting abuse of women. Like, no. I think the people that got it, right? The video obviously was created for a certain group of people, for a certain niche. And hence the reason why it got 41,000 and growing likes on it, right? And it's like, that video, it's just almost amazing to see how such a short video, right? We're talking about a very contained video and in a very small amount of time can amass such influence, right? Impact on people. Like nearly, and then probably at this point, because that was like a couple of days ago, I think I saw it was like 900 something thousand views. So at this point, it probably has over 1 million views, right? Over 1 million people has seen this video or will see it. And it's just like, obviously it was created for a certain group of people. So I think I made that pretty clear. Let's be clear, right? And at the end of the day, like we're gonna just have to agree to disagree, right? To each his own. We have to just go ahead and just rely on that old-fashioned statement, right? To say to each his own. Because that's really what it boils down to. And if it's not your cup of tea, fine. But it's many of us. It's many of our cup of tea. It may not be your cup of tea, but it's most certainly mine. Now, I did want to kind of spin this to talk about a few, to give a few examples, right, of stories that relate to this topic. Funny enough, I really wasn't going to like focus necessarily on this particular video, but I get it that you guys are still talking about it. That's the reason why sometimes I keep pausing, because like people are commenting. I keep getting notifications. People are commenting and the comments just won't stop, right? And it got to a point where the video has gone so viral that the original creator of the video, the content creator who made the video, he commented on the video that I posted, right, to leave his information, and I pinned his comment. So yeah, I originally was not going to focus necessarily on that particular video, but because it's getting so much attention and it's blowing up my freaking notification box, you know, it's like it's going freaking crazy. I'm like, okay, let me focus my next video on that. But I really kind of wanted to talk also about, in the grand scheme of things, like the importance of detaching ourselves from toxic relationships and mediocrity. Detaching ourselves from the toxic relationships, mediocrity, subpar living, right? I actually was going to title this video that. It can dub as either, right? But, you know, of course, as it relates to that, because it kind of seems like, okay, well, how can a person detach themselves from toxicity, right? Meanwhile, I'm talking about advocating for people who like pain, for example, you know, whether emotional or physical pain, as being a masochist. But it's definitely relatable, and I think that people, you know, obviously may get confused, right? Because there is such fine line between the two. But once you are educated, you know, on the intricacies of this type of dynamic, and you allow yourself to reach a certain degree of understanding, things will get a little bit easier. The funny thing though, BDSM is just not seen. It's not evident only in intimate, you know, or romantic relationships, right? BDSM vibrates throughout everywhere, right? In all relationships, personal and professional, especially in the context of corporate America. So I dialed it back to my first job. I actually was going to title this video, I quit my first job. You guys probably like, what? You quit your job? But it says a lot about myself, and I like to use myself sometimes as a catalyst, right? Use examples from my own personal life, because I'm very transparent, right? And I feel very comfortable in who I am and things I've gone through, right? Because I'm very self-aware. I reflect, you know, I'm very attuned to who I am. So I can speak openly and honestly about things that I've gone through in life and use it as a catalyst to effect change, right? To help motivate people. So I reflect back, you know, it wasn't my first job. I don't know if it was quite my very first job, or maybe my second job, but I think I was 16 years old. And I was living with my father in Jacksonville, Florida. And at the time, yeah, because when I think about it, my very first job, I think probably was babysitting. Yeah, because I was babysitting probably before I even started school, right? I had nieces and nephews at the time that I was watching before I probably even started school. But I used to braid hair. This is something like I've done just as early as grade school. I used to braid hair. Started with like family members, and then it branched out to people like friends of family, right? And then just my classmates, and it keeps expanding, right? When you're good at something, you know, word of mouth can sell a thing faster than any kind of paid advertisement. I never ever purchased paid advertisement, whether it was for braiding hair or even my current businesses that I own now. Like, because when you're good at something, a product or a service, when something is good, people are going to talk, point blank, period. And the thing about braiding at the time, back in grade school, was just like people see it, right? So it's like the person whose hair I used to braid, they would be a walking billboard for me, and then they would tell, oh, Danielle, she does hair, da da da. And they would give my phone number. I wouldn't have a problem with them giving my phone number or sharing my phone number with a potential client. So I had business back then. Like I was in high school at this time, relating to this particular story I'm about to unpack. But I think at the time I decided to take a job, like a regular kind of a job, right? Not working for myself, but working for an employer, just as something to do. And I think it was my second job. My first job, I think, was at another location. This is when I was living with my mother, right? And then I went to live with my father when I was 16. So, a little backdrop. So I grew up with both my mom and my dad up until the age of 12. And then my mom decided that things wasn't working between her and my dad. So she left and picked up and took me and my sister when I was 12 years old to go live with her mother, my maternal grandmother. And this was like maybe a half hour away from where my father lived. At 16, I decided, fuck this shit. I moved back in with my dad, right? Like, hell no, that shit was not flying with my mom. So I moved back in with my father at 16. And so at 16, the first job was at Wendy's when I was living with my mom, right? In St. Augustine, Florida. That shit ain't fly. Like I said, because it kind of boils back to who I am and what I'm willing to stand up for and what I'm willing to tolerate. And so moved back with my dad at 16 years old. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll take a job. Not that I had to, because I was making money braiding hair. Now, so we're talking about, let me see, what year was this? We are in 2023, so 16 years old. Okay, I graduated high school 18 in 2002. This is like 2000, yo. Year 2000, that seemed like so long ago. Like, it made me feel like I'm so old. So like around 99, 2000, right? I moved back to live with my father. I'm 16 years old. I'm just like, what the heck, right? I applied to a job at McDonald's, And I knew going in that I didn't want to do that. Like, I just like, okay, I'll just see what it's like, right? Not that I had to. Because I was getting money. Like, I had clients coming in for me braiding hair. Back then, the going rate was like anywhere between $50 to like $100 per head, right? And we're talking about just natural braids. Sometimes I would add weave and it depends. So that's where the sliding scale would go. But yeah, like for just guys who want straight back braids, right? That could easily give me $40, $50, I was pulling in some decent money and I was braiding hair in my father's house, right? And I remember he was just like, he kind of hated it because obviously I was bringing in people in the house, strangers, and he had suggested I go and get a booth, and it was like a salon right across the street from my father's house. He was like, just go over there, rent a booth, and you can do your clients here over there. I had people coming in, y'all, like, that shit was hot. I had people coming in, all different types of people, children and women and men, students coming into my dad's house, and I'm braiding their hair. He didn't like it, and then the hair on the floor, and he's just like, my dad is very meticulous, and I think that's where I get it from, like, just very OCD. Like, he know anything changes in his house, he come home, he like, yeah, somebody been in my house. I can tell, like, look at the carpet, right? Look at the footsteps. Like, I'm the same exact way. I have my father characteristics, very honest. And so, yeah, it was like, I think he was just annoyed with me in the traffic. And so I think that's kind of what encouraged me to get a job, because I wanted my own money, So I applied to McDonald's. Of course, I get the job. Like anybody apply to McDonald's. If you don't get hired by McDonald's, something wrong with you. Especially if if you're not overqualified, obviously, for the position. I got the job, and it was for cashier. But I think it was I think it was like second day on the job. They were like, "Oh, get the broom. And after the broom, the mop, and clean the floors." Yo, this is me back when I'm 16 years old. I'm like, excuse me. And this is the manager telling me this. I'm like, I did not apply to this job to clean floors, to sweep, mop, what the fuck. I did not. That's not, no. I applied to be a cashier, right? And I quit. And they were like shocked, like, how are you going to quit? Listen, you're not going to sit up here and try to use me and take advantage of me, first and foremost, because I'm young. I think that's probably why sometimes people do it, because a person is young. Absolutely no, right? And I'm thinking, like, and then I saw my first paycheck. Maybe it was 2 weeks I worked there, because I think I worked long enough to at least get a paycheck. And I saw it, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? I make more. Yo, I'm looking at the breakdown of my hours and my pay. I'm like, yo, I make more doing a one-person head for 45 minutes than I make. Like, they were paying me what? Back then it was $5.50 per hour. I was working like 5 hours a day. We're talking about what? $25 a day? $30 a day, right? And they take out taxes. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't nothing. What the fuck is this? I make 10 times more than this braiding a person's hair. I can make much more money in one day braiding hair than I make a fucking whole entire week doing cashier work. And they want me to mop and sweep the floor. So I said, hell to the fuck no, right? Fast forward till today. I'm a whole psychologist out here in these streets. I'm a whole PhD. Now, one may say, oh, you're being pompous. Oh, you're arrogant. Or what have you. Listen, I don't care. I've always known my value. I've always known my worth. Right? Sometimes people get it mistaken because, like, I remember, and this was another video that I had posted, and the person, this guy, right? Because you got a lot of MGTOW beta men, just for lack of a better word, bitch-ass niggas, right? Who somehow had things mistaken and assumed that a woman who pursues a PhD becomes smart because she has a PhD. And I always tell people, let's be clear. No, bitch. I pursue a PhD because I am smart. Not that, oh, I become smart after I pursue a PhD. Think about that for a second. Right? Think about that. So I am who I am regardless. Right? And me, whatever career or whatever business venture I embark upon, it's a reflection of who I am. Me doing that particular thing does not make me who I am. Let's be clear. I think that's where people get shit twisted. They're like, oh, you think that you're this because you got a PhD? Like, I've been the shit, okay? I always knew who I was, who I am. I've always known my value and my worth, right? And it shows when other people are dismissive of that. Like, that's where the shit hit the fans, when other people are dismissive and disrespectful and inconsiderate. I feel like this should go without saying. Basic rule of thumb: treat people with respect. Don't take advantage of people. Unless, of course, right, it's consensual, right? Going back to the BDSM. But listen, it's like, don't play me like that, right? And so fast forward to this day, like, I'm a whole PhD out here in these streets, like I said. I'm a ward psychologist, right? I work for the state of New York at a psychiatric hospital. I know my role. And I believe, if you ask me, I do my role quite well. Especially given the resources, or very few resources, that I have there. I think I'm pretty efficient and effective in my position. But I get it, and this is the reason why I never like working in the context of any really organization or any company or in corporate America, because that's where the bureaucracy and the politics comes in. Listen, I ain't got time for that. I am on a mission. I am on a purpose in life, right? I've always been goal-directed, goal-driven, purpose-driven. That's always been me. Anyone who knows me can attest to that. They'll tell you, you ask them about how they see me. One of the first things they're going to say is, Danielle's smart, right? She focused. Like, she got her shit together. That's always been me, right? So I don't like working in the context of corporate America because people and their attitudes and people, like, it's just the whole power thing, and people think that because they have a certain position or their title may be a little above yours, when really psychologists make more than treatment team leaders, right? But it's like there's this thing, there's this riffraff. It's like you're not going to sit up here and try to play me like I'm some fool. And so just recently, this person on my team who somehow assumes that because of her title that she has a higher position than I do and she can try to delegate tasks, is going to say that, okay, a patient had urine on them and they were sitting in chairs, right? And I notify her, let her, like, listen, this person, urine, sitting in chairs. I know my job as a psychologist is to deliver therapy, to do testing, to run groups, and I love what I do. Don't get it mistaken, right? But you're not going to sit up and have me do out of title work, and that's what she essentially was trying to do. It was like, oh, well, you can just go get the chemical spray and wipes or whatever, rag, and wipe it up. No. I asked her about housekeeping. They can come and do that. So she tried to play me, and so we're in a meeting. And she's been doing this for a while, but not necessarily in meetings. She does it back in the context of like our office, right? Kind of like an informal type of communication. She'll be like, Danielle. Now, everyone there calls me Dr. Leach. I appreciate it, right? It's out of respect. I've earned my title, right? Whether you are an MD or PhD or PsyD, if you are a doctor, you're called doctor. Now, in certain contexts, there have been organizations such as the one that I worked for when I did evaluations for OPWDD, the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. There was a culture where no one went by doctor because they didn't want to make the clients that we served who had developmental disabilities feel even more inferior, right? By our, title. So that was the norm. Right? But here, this woman does this very intentional to not call me doctor at times, and it's been increasing. First, it was just like in the context of us just hanging out in the back office, right? And then it progressed to her doing that when I'm out on the ward in front of patients, calling me by my first name in front of patients, right? You don't do that to a psychiatrist that's a doctor. You don't do that to a medical doctor who is a doctor, right? So don't do that to me, right? In front of the patients, dress me as my title, Dr. Leach. And it may sound petty, but it's not, unless you are in that particular situation, right? And so then recently it progressed to her doing that in formal meetings where she's going to try to call me out saying, oh, Danielle, all right? And I stopped her. I said, Dr. Leach. And I can tell from the expression on her face, she was shocked. She did not expect that. That's the thing. It's like when a person, people, and this goes for rather professional and personal relationships, right, have gotten very comfortable with disrespecting you, and then you draw that boundary, they're shocked, usually, right? They feel some kind of way. Like the nerve of her to feel some kind of way for me to simply demand respect. I shouldn't even have to do that. So that's how I know this is further indication that that environment is not for me. I choose not to. I choose not to attach myself to toxic relationships. That's deliberately toxic. I didn't consent to this. I don't have to sign up. I'm not a part of this. I don't have to sign up for this. I don't, right? You guys may or may not have your own opinion. Feel free to share, right? But I know some people who are misinformed, and for some people, right, they're used to being mistreated, right? They've worked the 9 to 5 for so many years, so they just take it as it comes. That's not me. I don't have to work a 9 to 5. Like, I have to make this very clear. I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. I have a very strong skill set for many different things that I can sustain myself and make a living apart from working a 9 to 5. Like, let's be clear. I got that job. I took that job, right? So I can get my supervision hours for licensure. Now that I have attained that, there's really no need for me to continue to stay there. Now, granted, as a therapist, right? Like, you deliver services, and those services encompass having relationships with people, right? And so sometimes it's difficult to have to come to the point of terminating those relationships. That's a difficult process. But it's like, listen, if it means me retaining my self-respect and dignity, then so be it. Those relationships will have to be terminated. And they're going to be terminated. I've already come to that, right? And this is something that has been ongoing. We're about to wrap this video up, but this is something that has been ongoing to the extent where it's like, it's little things, and I pay attention. Of course, I'm very observant. Who is not? Who is not observant? I'm very observant, very meticulous when it comes to little details, right? And little things that people say and people do. Right? And I get it, in certain contexts and in certain work environments, just like things become the norm. People show up to work and they do their jobs because like they need a paycheck and they working towards their pension and just like, buddy. Absolutely no. Like, dial it back to, this was 2000, what's come out? 2008, I would say. Actually, 2007. I knew back then, even before then, completely, I gave the example when I was 16 years old, that working for somebody just wasn't for me, right? I knew that even back then. So if I'm 16 and know that, imagine now, right? As a 39-year-old woman, you already know. But I can give many examples, like even back in 2007, that was like after I graduated college in 2006 at the age of 22. So we're talking about like, I'm 23. At the age of 23, like I knew then also was reminded like, this is clearly not for me, right? And that's when in 2008, 2009, really 2010, that's really when I solidified. I created and branded my own organization because I'm just like, I can't. I can't. I was like, it's too many people going along with the go along. And the go along is being abused, is being mistreated, is being not appreciated, not respected. That should go without saying. An employee should not have to demand respect or file grievances just to be treated with respect. Like, are you kidding me? Where they do that at? I want no parts of that, right? Like, that is just not who I am. At my core, it has never been, right? I may show up, of course, and I show up, I do my job because I'm there for a particular reason. For the patients, I always make it clear I don't work for you. Right? I don't work for them. Them being this organization. I'm here for the patients. I'm here for them. I work with you guys. Right? People in administration. I work with you, but I don't work for you. Because that's the issue when people assume a certain level of power or position over you. People abuse that power. That's just how it goes. Unfortunately, people, they assume a position of abuse in that position that they stand in, whatever title they have been given, right? That's not gonna fly with me. It's not. And I am definitely looking forward to the day, which I know is going to be soon, that I will be putting in my 2 weeks. No, y'all have jobs lined up. And like, listen, people can say what they want to say, but I think there is a lot of benefit. There's a lot to gain by first and foremost knowing your worth, right? Here is how you do not become the subject of abuse, of mistreatment. This is how you detach yourself from toxic relationships. Detach yourself from mediocrity. Detach yourself from subpar living. This is how, first and foremost, know who you are. Thankfully, the way I've been raised and nurtured by both of my parents, my mother and my father, since I was born, I knew who I am. They instilled that in me. They poured that in me. Especially, I give much thanks and credit to my father. He told me when I was a baby, he raised me up to the sky and dedicated me, because he was a Christian at the time, right? He dedicated me to God, right? But just knowing who I am, knowing that I am a special person, knowing that I am a special being. You can look at it how you want to look at it. I know my worth. I know who I am. And knowing who you are, a lot comes with that, right? To whom much is given, much is required also. Right? But being able to walk in that greatness and standing firm and not tolerating that shit. When you know who you are, you must set boundaries. There's no bargaining when it comes to your respect and your dignity. There's no bargaining. You're going to have to lose certain things. Certain attachments that you grew to develop. You have to let go. Because it's either you're respected and your dignity remains intact, or that has to go. Do you have people, entities, organizations, people who deliberately they don't care. They're like, okay, well, we have our mission, right? And in their mind, the way they work their mission is at the detriment to other people that they walk on. Like you're just robots or puppets and being puppeteered and being used to their advantage. Absolutely no. A healthy organization does not function in that way, does not have to function in that way, right? They're actually very profitable Fortune 500 companies, very wealthy companies such as Google, from what I hear, that they treat their employees with respect. It's not about, oh, you're above this person in hierarchy and all of that. It's like, no, we're all a team, we're all family, we work together. If there's an issue, we address it respectfully, right? In private, you don't have to sit up here and try to assert your power over somebody and try to humiliate and disrespect a person in front of an audience. And that's the reason why during that meeting, when she was like, oh, Danielle, and by the way, I'm like, I cut her off. It's Dr. Leach. And she looked at me in shock. And then she said, okay, Dr. Leach. It's like, it's sad that you even have to do that, right? And I, like, especially at this point in my life, I have very little tolerance for bullshit. I really do. And professional, even personal. I give a lot of leeway. So don't think this is the first little fucking friction that has happened at this particular juncture, this particular setting. I mean, this repeat, yo. And at some point, it's like, I cannot. It takes a toll. And that's the cost. Unfortunately, that is a cost when we do not detach ourselves from toxic environments, toxic relationships, subpar living, mediocrity. We end up becoming that. You become that which you do not detach yourself from, that you should detach yourself from. You become that toxic person. It weighs down on your spirit. Because deep down inside, your spirit knows this is not who you are. This is therefore not how you should be treated. Unless that's what you want, right? Going back to the fetish thing. Unless that is what you want, but hell no. You got me fucked up. I'll give one more example for those who are still watching. And I'm about to go ahead and wrap this video up and have my brunch. So, I went on a date, right? And I think I did talk about this before, where this is probably maybe a couple of months ago, I went on a date. I was dating this guy. Well, not even dating. I was talking to this guy. I was getting to know this person via phone first, who works for the United Nations here in New York. And he has FBI clearance. Like, he, you know, the funny thing about people who have certain high-profile positions or classified positions, not supposed to be broadcasting it and telling it. And I think that he could have did it inadvertently when we did the video chat, right, to confirm that we are who we say we are. And granted, he is. I'm like, okay, you know, sometimes you just never know, right? The pictures, people can post pictures of one thing and then turn out they somebody else, right? So I'm like, I need to see. I need to confirm. We did the video chat after we exchanged contact information, and he had, prior to us getting on the phone, doing the video chat, he had on the phone told me about some piece of art, right? He was telling me about, some piece of art, because we both resonated with this artist, Michelle Basquiat, right? And he was like, yeah, he wanted to show me. So he takes the video, he takes the phone, and he was walking to show me the piece of art. But he was very careless, I think. He wasn't focused. Like, that's me. I rarely slip up. That's just how I am. Like, I'm very meticulous, very observant. But I think he was so, like, excited that, he got on the phone call with me. He was just so, I can tell men that are uberly excited, right, to see me or whatever. Or because they probably just don't really meet women that often. It could be either or. But anyway, he was very excited, and he takes the phone. He's walking. While he's showing me the piece of art that we had been talking about, that he had purchased, oops, his badge, his FBI clearance, badge or whatever, because he travels. Like, as part of his job, he has to go on missions, and he travels different countries. He had just came back from a country before we actually did the video chat, right? We had been talking, like, while he was in another country, we had been talking by phone. And when he came back, we did a video chat, but oops, he accidentally showed me the FBI clearance. I'm like, okay, I ain't say nothing about it. Like, I didn't see it though, right? I'm playing like I didn't even see it. Because I know I'm not supposed to see that. And so, we go on a date, right? He planned a date. The date was at an African restaurant. But before we get to the African restaurant, the idea was that we met near a park in Harlem. Speaking of which, I am going to go to Harlem today. It's just something about going to Harlem on a Sunday. It's just a certain mood and a certain vibe. I don't know what it is. It's just reminds me so much of home. But anyway, it was 116th Street, right? It was supposed to meet like in that area. And I decided I wanted to walk. I live in Upper East Side. Walking to Harlem, it's a good, nice walk. It's like walking from Upper East Side to Midtown. It's a nice, decent walk. But I love to walk. And for him, he decided to take an Uber. So I told him, like, listen, do not have me waiting. Don't have me waiting. He laughed. I'm like, I'm saying to myself, right? This is before we end up leaving our homes to meet up. This guy don't know me. All right? And sometimes you have to show a person better than you can tell them. Right? One might say, oh, that's petty, Danielle. No, it's not being petty, guys. When you give people an inch, they take a mile. They do. So I said, listen, don't have me waiting. He kind of smirked it up. I'm like, okay. I'm gonna get the last laugh on this one. So I show up. Right? And when I show up, right, I'm roughly on time. I may be like 3 minutes late from the time that we agreed to meet. But in advance, I called him, like, trying to see, like, hey, where are you, right? He's like, he tells me that, I think he said it's like 5 minutes before he gets there, right? I'm like, okay, not that far away, like 5 to 7 minutes, right? That shit passed. I get there. I'm like, where are you? Oh, it's going to be like 10 minutes. Now, you live closer. He lives closer to that meeting spot on 116th. He lives in Harlem. I think in 130s, right? I'm in Upper East Side. We're talking about, I'm not going to tell y'all where I live, but like, yo, I'm closer to like Midtown and Upper East Side, if anything, than Harlem is there, but it's just like, it's still like he was closer than what I was. And I'm just like, this motherfucker is playing me. Like, I don't like that. Don't play me. First and foremost, you know how offensive it is to have a woman waiting on the first. No, you should be there first, if anything. Like, dude, men have shit all the way fucked up. You got me fucked all the way up. You got me waiting for you. You know, you should be waiting for me, or we should just meet each other there at the same time, right? Within reason. So he wanted me to continue waiting. That could have been 10, 15, 20 minutes. Sorry, I'm not doing it. On top of that, let's paint the picture here in the context that we're talking about. This was months ago. Granted, it just started getting warm in New York. I think, was this February? I don't know what month it was, but it was when it was cold. It was cold, okay? Mind you, when I say cold, I think it was like in the 30s cold. Now, granted, I'm adjusted to New York, right? I'm adjusted to the weather. I can handle walking miles in that weather, but I'm not about to sit up here and wait. Sorry, I'm not waiting. Yes, I'm walking because I chose to walk. I'm not waiting for you. In weather or not weather, I am not. I can't. So I told him that. So he thought I was bullshit. I said, I'm leaving. Because you're bullshitting. You're bullshitting, you lied, right? He was like, well, I'm in an Uber. Fuck that. I left. He calls me, why you left? Like, he's telling me that I did something wrong for choosing to leave when I explicitly told him that do not have me waiting. He thought that shit was a joke. I'm just saying, though. Like, that's the issue, yo. Like, you have women, right? They set a precedent and they fuck it up for women like myself, right? And men be confused because they used to dealing with women, you know, that they can dog them out and they have these very low expectations and all kind of shit go down the first date, and that's just not me. Right? So you come across a woman like me and they recognize like, oh, you're a different kind of woman, right? You value yourself. You're a certain caliber, right? I get that from men. They tell me that, right? But it's like, okay, if you recognize that, then what is the problem? The issue is that they also admit that I'm too much for them. That they feel like they are not on my level. I've been told that by men, that they feel that they are not on my level and that they are motivated to date me because I can help, I guess, pull them up, so to speak, right? Or like teach them some things. I'm like, that's my issue because that's the reason I'm still fucking single. I like a man to pull me. I want a man to pull me up. Or maybe we pull each other up, right? But I like a leader. I like a dominant alpha man. Teach me some things. I like you to take my hand and take the lead. And going back to the video, I'm definitely about to wrap this up, but going back to the video, the example of what was stated in that little clip where he asserted himself. She was like, oh, I'm just about to go home. He was like, no, I'm going to tell you what you about to do. You better sit your ass down. I'm about to finish cooking. He was in the kitchen already cooking, so you better sit your ass down. I'm about to finish cooking. You gonna get some dick and we're gonna lay down and watch a movie. It's like, I think where people miss it, especially men, some men didn't comment on that. They didn't miss it because it's like, women, that's what we're craving. We want a man. And those things embody leadership. Point blank, period. These men nowadays are of the wave of, oh, well, let's see. We'll see kind of thing. We'll see how things pan out. I'm just going to go with the flow. We'll see how things go. No, I don't want no man that's of that school of thought. We'll see how things... I want a man who's clear. And there are men that exist. They're still around, right? They still breed men like this who are leaders. I need a leader. You need to know what you want, right? Have an idea. Everything ain't got to be planned to the T. Exactly. But have a sense of direction of where you're going in life. Know where you're going. Where's your life headed? Apart from me, where are you headed in life? Where you see yourself in 2 years, 5 years? Have a plan. These motherfuckers ain't got no sense of direction. They want a woman to come in and be that direction. I'm sorry. No. Right? And if you're looking for that as a man, to each his own. To each his own. There are women that want to be the lead and take the lead. Nah, I'm sorry. That's not my role here. That's definitely not my role. So with that, yeah, I cut his ass off. I'm not interested. I can't pretend to be interested in you. And granted, these are like this man. Only thing he worked for the UN, but he owned properties, which was validated, right? Like it's not that it was made up. I saw proof, right? Like these are well qualified, I would say, to a certain extent, men. But if I'm not like, yo, you fucking up. And I feel like it's a carelessness for me. It's just a carelessness. And it's just like the lackadaisical attitude. Like, you don't even care. Like, I feel like, listen, they act like, oh, well, oh my gosh, I struck gold. Like, they're happy to meet me and get to know me and this and the other. Like, okay, if you're that happy, then act like it. Like, put forth the effort. I had one guy say, well, dang, you asking me these questions like this is an interview. It's like, dang, I don't feel like I should have to show up in that way. And I don't know this motherfucker. We never met. This is just exchange on a dating app. But he's like, this is a different guy. He's like, oh, I don't feel like I need to be put like, kind of like on a witness stand, so to speak. I'm like, listen, this is questions. You can ask me a question, I can answer it. I'm not bound down or backing away, rather, from a question that you asking, knowing that you're asking to get to know who I am, right? But yeah, I've had men that say, oh, yeah, like it's too much. It's too much, then fine. My thing is this, if you can show up for the white man and put on your suit and be professional and come to an interview for a white man, why can't you put your best foot forward for me? Fuck that. I cut that relationship very short. We never met. And he, in turn, I saw that I made the right decision based on how he handled that. Like I said, I'm taking ownership and saying, well, you were right. I showed up late. I should have been on time, right? My fault. He had ample time. We're talking about he had ample time. He was just being careless with the time. If you can't be careful with time, you cannot handle me. I'm sorry. No. You don't deserve to handle me, in fact. And so, yeah. In response, he was just like pointing fingers, like saying, oh, who do you think you are? Who do you think, who do I think I am? Well, clearly you don't know. Clearly you don't have respect for who I am. So you don't deserve me. That was the end of that. And then fast forward to current, like this guy, and it's funny enough, I try to give people second chances. I do. But it's like you can't change a person. That's definitely not my intent to change anyone. I am not in the business of changing no man. If you don't show up as already made man, I have no interest in you. Yes, we all have flaws, but please be self-aware. I know mine, right? I can just talk about mine. A lot of these men, sometimes they're just not aware of themselves. They're not. Then you point those things out. You reflect back to them who they are, because clearly, I'm in the business of making people see themselves, obviously. And they are looking like, what the hell? They don't even, if you know as a man or as a woman, you know who you are. When that mirror is put up, you're not going to be frightened. You shouldn't be, because you've already seen you. You know who you are. You know yourself. You know your character flaws. And you're working on those things, right? To improve yourself. Idealistically. So, yeah, with this most recent guy, I cut his ass off too. I'm just like, I can't. Listen. And it was a kind of similar situation where the plan was for him to call me when he got off of work. He messaged me, like, you're disturbing my peace. You're taking away from, anytime a man, I feel like you're taking my attention. My attention is on other things at this point. other things that are deserving of my attention. You distract me. You text me. You call me, distracting my attention from something that I am focused on, right? So I'm going to give you my attention. He's like, oh, I'm at work. I'm going to call you. I'm like, okay, what time? Because you don't expect me to be waiting up for your fucking phone call. That will never happen. I mean, I don't even know you like that, first and foremost. And so he says 9:30. Okay, 9:30. He said around 9:30. 9:30 came, no fucking phone call. 10 o'clock came, no phone call. Listen, at this point, I'm not even expecting a phone call anymore. What the hell? And he's texting me, oh, sorry, something came up. This is like, what, Friday, right? Something came up. Now, the whole point of the phone call that was supposed to happen at 9:30 was for us to come to an understanding, because this is a person that also said to hell with your ass, right? And this is recent. He works in the finance industry. Like I say, these are somewhat viable men. I don't give a fuck about that though. It's like, listen, I'm not her. I am not her. And so the whole point of the meeting was for us to kind of come to a middle ground understanding. And I feel like this is your opportunity and you fucked that. But I'm wrong though. Like, listen, y'all comment below. I'm wrong. Oh, I'm being petty. Person, oh, you being petty. Like, listen, this, we're talking about, this is the, not even the second opportunity. Oh, this dude had several opportunities after he did some bullshit and fucked up, right? And this is like us getting to know each other phase. Go back, and I made a video about this motherfucker going on a date. My most recent video about the whole date thing, right? Go check that out. I talked about the date. It was kind of trash. It was okay, but looking back, it was kind of trash. Just like, I've been on better dates. Like, come on. You know, I feel like you should put your best foot forward, right? But if you don't have a best foot, what do you have to put forward? Point blank, you trash yourself and you ain't got your shit together. Like, come on, like, you should not be dating. So that was the whole point of that meeting, for us to kind of reconcile those differences that kept us apart and kept his ass on block mode over these past couple of months. This past Friday, today is Sunday, this past Friday night, that was the whole point of the meeting, the phone call, which did not happen. Then he calls me at 1. I'm sleeping, but I see that after I wake up Saturday morning that he called. I'm just like, he's messaging me, assuming that the date is still on. Granted, like, yes, the date that was supposed to happen at 1 was contingent upon our conversation, working through those differences, baby, at 9:30 Friday, which that didn't happen. So he's expecting for me to make accommodations so we can have that conversation that Saturday morning. Oh, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, I'm inflexible. I'm not making those accommodations. Number one, bullshit, right? He's like, oh, well, sorry, something came up. I'll explain. Don't worry, you ain't gotta explain. I'm not that kind of woman. You don't have to. We get to know each other. This is the beginning phase of us getting to know each other. And you already being inconsistent. You already moving funny. Talking about, oh, you had to stay late at the shop, at a car shop, at work. Like, listen, I ain't got time. And I feel like this is what some men who are very toxic, people in general, who are toxic, they love this back and forth. They like for women to be like, oh, you say you working at the shop at 1 o'clock, you went at the shop, like they like that back and listen, I don't have the time for it. I've created a level of peace in my life, of functionality in my life. So anything else that tries to come in and disturb that, you got to go. I've said that over. You got to go. And yo, this is not a surprise to him. We talked about deal breakers like day one when we exchanged contact information. So like if you're an educated, you're a wise man, you can get the feel of, you can get the kind of feel of vibe or fabric of a woman. Like, oh yeah, she not the one. Let me make sure I have all my ducks lined. Like, come on, right? And if you ain't got to make extra nothing if you already that type of person anyway, right? If you're already a man that you got your shit together, you already GQ, listen, you ain't got to do all of that. That's not extra for you to do that, to try to live up to a woman's standards, because you already have those high standards, expectations of yourself anyway, as an upstanding man, point blank, period, right? But he's not that man. And he also is one of the ones that said, oh, well, yeah, because he kept trying to plead. This was before when I, in the process of cutting his ass off, pleading, oh, well, I never met a woman like you, of your stature, of your caliber, of your social status, da da da. I kept saying, so I would like, listen, that's not making me feel any better by you saying that you never met. If anything, I would rather for you to meet a woman and be that man who is of equal status and standing. The fuck? So yesterday, his ass blowing my phone, calling, texting, messaging, blah, 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 back and forth, trying to explain it. Like, listen, I don't know what kind of woman y'all be dealing with. See, women, a lot of women, not all, but some women be setting that precedent with men. Men can do what the fuck they want to do, and then they want to come back and they can beg and plead, apologize, I'm so sorry, and it works, right? They use that, and that shit work. That shit don't work with me. You got one time. You barely got that. You barely got a motherfucker one time. Don't play. Why are you playing games, right? It didn't have to go that way. Listen, if you say you want to talk at 9:30, granted, sometimes work cause people to stay late. Shit happens. I get it, right? That's where communication comes in. He didn't communicate properly, right? Until 1 o'clock, he calling. Listen, you said 9:30, so we go from 9:30, and I'm waiting on you to call 9:30, and then you pop up at 1. Listen, I'm asleep at that point. Wake up, and then he calling my phone. Oh, we're supposed to meet. He blaming me. Now, catch this. Blaming me, saying, oh, you're not keeping your word. You said we're going to meet. Look at the kettle calling the motherfucking pot black. Or the pot calling the kettle black. I heard that saying go. You sit up here and say you're supposed to be calling me at 9:30 so we can reconcile our differences so that I feel comfortable enough to go on a date and trust your ass on a date with you. That was your time, buddy. I don't know what the fuck. He was like, well, I figured since I'm taking off Saturday, now this is hindsight. He's saying all this after the fact. Well, I figured that I was going to go ahead and stay later. That's the reason why I didn't get off till 1 o'clock. I didn't get home till 1 o'clock because I figured that I was going to just go ahead and take off Saturday so we could be together and work through all of this. And that's why I stayed later to get everything done. Nah, buddy. If you knew, foresight, babe, you have to have good planning. Where's your executive functioning? Your shit is all fucked up, right? Because anybody who has a wise mind, right, if that was your intention, then you should have said that in the beginning. You don't try to will me along. Don't try to string, because I'm on top. I'm 10 steps ahead. I'm 20 steps ahead. I'm always ahead of this shit, man. Like, please don't play with me. That is my point. I don't have time for this, right? And so, if that was his intention, he could have simply just said that in advance. Listen, this is my plan. I usually work on Saturdays, which he been told me that. I usually work on Saturdays. So, here is a game plan. I'm not going to work on Saturday, which means I'm going to have to put in extra work Friday, right? He knew that conversation wasn't going to happen. But he's trying to buy time, right? He's trying to buy time and buy leverage to get back in on the good grace with me. And I'm just like, listen, he knows what is important to me. We've already talked about love languages, and I said, listen, mine is quality time. Fuck the roses. I've had my ex, my last long-term serious relationship, he would buy me materialistic things, right? Michael Kors bags and jewelry. Listen, that's nice. It's cool, okay? But that doesn't really does it for me. You know what does it for me? Honesty, communication, consistency, quality time, baby. Those things you cannot buy. You either got it or you don't. So he knew that was important to me. Conversation and working things out and coming to that understanding. That's how you build intimacy. Communication. being transparent and honest and open, being true, just being authentic, being real, being yourself. And then the person can make an informed decision. Is this what I want to do or is not what I want? I told him so many times over, I can't do this. I don't. Right? You ain't got, his thing is, oh, I'm chasing freedom. I'm chasing a bag. I'm in that phase. Listen, I get it. And if that's the phase you're in, you should focus on that wholeheartedly. Do not sit up here and compromise my time for this bullshit that you want. It's like, no, I want you to just be there with me. But what am I gaining from this conversation? What am I gaining? I mean, from this interaction. Okay, I'm there for you. He likes the idea of him dating a woman of my caliber. He said that. He's like, oh, you're a doctor, you're a PhD, da da da. Okay. He likes that idea of that, right? So I'm doing something for him. In turn, what are you doing for me? He can answer that. There's no evidence pointing in the direction of anything that he can do for me. He was like, I'll give you everything. He's saying things that he thinks I want to hear, right? Knowing that obviously I do want to procreate. I do want a family. I do want, obviously marriage, kids, and all of that, right? I do. He said, well, what do you want? You want a ring? I'll go buy you a ring. We can get married. You're missing the point. It starts with the foundation. I don't even trust your ass. You can say all of this shit to me. I don't know you. I don't even know this man. We went on one fucking date, yo. We went on one date, and that's the video that I talked about. But anyway, I say all this to say, listen, and I told him this, I'm very firm on my boundaries. And he's up, he is angry. He's angry at me, but he only can be mad at himself. You gotta come correct, baby, when you come to me. That is the moral of the story, and it's not just me, because it's beyond me, though. It's just like, this is a message to show, listen, stand firm on who you are. Stand firm on what you believe in. Just stand firm. There's many rewards that come along with it. You don't have to settle for less. And the irony of this shit is that those were his exact words, right? He kept saying that. This is when we first exchanged contact information. He was like, oh yeah, I don't want to settle. Funny enough, he was really talking about himself. He was projecting, right? He was foretelling almost of his own future, in the sense that telling me I should not settle for his ass. Be careful of your words that you use, that you speak. I'm just saying, though, some people, dangerous, okay? And I made that post the other day. Dangerous. Don't play with me. Don't play. I'm just saying, you got to come correct or don't come at all. Point blank, period. But for those who are watching, yes, know your worth. That goes many miles, a long way, when you know exactly who you are. You don't have to tolerate all this bullshit, these shenanigans, unless, of course, you want to, right? Now, there have been cases in men that I have made, I felt a certain kind of way. And I'm like, you know what? I choose to submit to him because this is what I want. And I will take responsibility for what comes along with that. Likewise, it can apply to a job or a setting that I'm affiliating myself with. I choose that. But you can also choose the opposite. And that's really what it's about. Making sure that you maintain yourself to be in control. You maintain your sense of autonomy in making your own decisions. Nobody can control you and make those decisions for you. Whatever decision you make is going to come from what you want to do. Because that's the reason why a lot of people are unhappy, because they're in relationships, they're working on jobs that are taking advantage of them and doing whatever they want to do to them. I am not one of them. I just make that clear. I make that clear to people directly. I talk about this in my blogs. That's just who I am. It ain't gonna fly like that. But on that note, you guys feel free to share this video. Feel free to leave your comments. And go check out that little clip, that little snippet. Oh my gosh. The funny thing though, that guy, he's really not that physically attractive. And someone said, he ain't even that fine to be talking like that to her. I think a lot of women saw themselves in that woman. And like, oh, well, that was me, And I'll be like, yes, daddy. But funny enough, it's not even about him being physically fine. It's really about him having that confidence in himself to be able to say what he said. And she sounded like, she didn't really, at the end of the video, it was kind of clipped, so it didn't say, like, it didn't show what her reaction was, but we could kind of hear a little bit, and she was like, okay, like, what is there to say, right? Yes, but it takes a certain kind of man to hold that kind of position. He has to be provided something. You got to be, what is you providing for a woman to submit, for a woman to go along with it, go along? What are you offering? Not a goddamn thing. It'd be different if this man was offering something. He's not offering nothing but headache. And I noticed that's a common theme. Like, stress. My life without you is peaceful. I don't wake up stressed. I don't go to bed stressed. Worried about when you're going to call, you not calling, you being inconsistent, you lying, saying you're going to do this, but you're not doing. Like, a woman got to worry about that. If you're not involved, what are you adding to her life? That's a funny thing, because you got men that want to sit up here and pose that question to women as if they ask is a prize and the woman is being a burden to them. That's not even true. Well, yes, we do need each other. But let's be clear, if you know damn well that all you adding is headache and inconsistency and confusion to a woman's life, it's easy for her, it's easy for her to make that decision that she doesn't want you in her life. You're not adding shit. You're not adding shit. And to me, dick ain't even a prize. Dick is not a bonus. Like, it's no dick. Listen, dick is dick. Dick, you gotta come with something better than good dick. Okay? We're in our 30s here. I'm approaching 40. You gotta come with something better than good dick. Good dick is played out. Okay? Good dick, that shit been around for ages. Nigga been getting good dick in the teens. As a teenager. So what is you bringing, right? At this point, like, you gotta know, like, what does a woman really want? And that's put on the table. You know, okay, a woman wants to have consistency, to build a family. Then okay, either you align with that or your ass ain't. And I feel like being aligned with, especially in context of being pro-black, right, being Pan-African, there's something driving a black woman or a black man to want to move with that purpose in mind, right? Like, you're being driven by something. When you got people, black men and women, organically, right? They want to procreate. They want to build family because they understand and appreciate the value in that. They see the value in that. And they move accordingly to that, right? Get your priorities in straight, man. You gotta get your priorities in straight. But on that note, it's probably be a while because, like, I feel like I don't really make vlogs anymore. It takes a lot. Like, I'm very thorough in my vlogs, right? Clearly. So it takes time. It takes a lot out of me when I vlog. And I've made a lot of vlogs, you guys. I think I looked at my analytics and I'm like, damn, I think it's over 2,000 freaking vlogs I made. Now, granted, I love doing this. I like making vlogs throughout the city where I go to different places and do my walking vlogs. I've been doing this for a little while now. Especially, I think when I first started was when I really got into vlogging when I moved to LA back in 2016. But yeah, I'm cutting back on it. So I told you guys, for those who want me to respond to a particular email or a topic or a question that you have that you want me to vlog about, make a video, in-depth video response to, email me. Okay? You guys have my contact information. My website is in the description box below. Email me. I will follow up with your email. And that's how we can move forward. But until then, you guys catch me on Facebook, all right? I'll catch you guys later. Love you guys. Bye.